Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is Bill Bender, college football expert, insider, and writer for the Sporting News. Bill, nice to have you back on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We very quickly noticed that you projected BYU to play in the Independence Bowl.
Which makes sense from an independent standpoint.
Yes, absolutely, and maybe that's why. Bill, it's kind of like a crapshoot with BYU, who doesn't have an official tie-in for a bowl game right now. Why did you feel like you projected them that they should play in the Independence Bowl?
Well, that was the one I picked. I mean, it is. Like you said, it's like throwing darts a little bit. You're not quite sure where the tie-in is. In previous years doing those projections, I knew exactly where I was putting BYU, and the way these group or Power 5 conferences work, there might be one or two teams that doesn't have enough wins to get in, and I think, matching them up with Pitt made sense in this particular case.
It'll be an ESPN-owned or televised bowl, given the relationship with ESPN we anticipate. Yet, does it unless it's a New Year's Six bowl game, does it really matter where BYU plays in terms of making a national impact as long as they play a quality opponent and compete and win that game?
Yeah, I think if they had it their way, they could play a Power 5 school, and that would look better, obviously. They've had Group of 5 schools over a couple seasons, and those matchups, they'll get televised. But like you said, I think in people's minds, because this whole narrative that bowl games are meaningless thing has somehow taken hold, that people don't really care what bowl you're in if it's not a New Year's Day 6 bowl. But in this case, I think, again, it would help BYU's profile. With the way they schedule, as you guys know, to play as many Power 5 opponents as possible.
At this point in 2017, okay, it used to be if you weren't in a New Year's Day bowl, that bowl just wasn't all that relevant. You could do your best to make it relevant, but the most relevant bowls were on New Year's Day. At this point, with all these bowls and all of them televised and New Year's Six and whatnot, does it really matter if you're on New Year's, if you're in a New Year's Day, not New Year's Six, a New Year's Day bowl or not?
I don't think so, because it's the emphasis on New Year's Day in general has been taken away because we have so many bowl games and they're all spread out. I'm a proponent of having the semifinals on January 1st, which this year we do. That's a good thing. And then some of the bowls around it. If you get in a New Year's Day 6 bowl, I think that's the best thing you can do because of the status that comes with it. Obviously money, TV, people are interested. I thought outside of the playoff last year, the two most intriguing games to me were the Rose Bowl between Penn State and USC and the Orange Bowl with Michigan and Florida State. And if you can get in one of those bowl games and have that spotlight on you, that's a pretty good thing.
Bill, we know that you are a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. Last year they were down 2-0, came back to win the NBA Finals. It was dramatic. But this time around, they're dealing with the Golden State Warriors team that picked up Kevin Durant. So, with that said, what has a better chance of happening? BYU to a New Year's Six bowl game or the Cavs winning the NBA Finals?
I saw this question before I came on, and you guys are trying to hurt me here. It's so hard to admit that the Warriors just have too much. It's not like last year when Cleveland trailed 2-0. I know the margin was different, but this just feels like a different Warriors team. So if Cleveland can win games 3 and 4, I think they still have a chance. Now BYU with their schedule, if they go, it's going to take, a one-loss BYU team to do it because I think there's some good Group of 5 candidates out there, but I think it could happen.
BYU's playing 5 games. We're jokingly calling them the Big Five or the Furious Five or whatever, against 5 quality opponents: LSU, Wisconsin, Utah, Boise State, Mississippi State. Those are the best 5 games on BYU's schedule. What do you anticipate could be BYU's record in those 5 against those 5 tough teams?
So it's the 3 September games, right? You got LSU, Utah, Wisconsin. I think if they get 2 of those, it would be a big win. If they could steal beat Wisconsin at home somehow, and that's not going to be easy, and then obviously beat Utah. I think LSU, you're going to be underdogs. That's a tough one to win. If they could go 2-1, that'd be huge. And then those other 2, you said Mississippi State, and who was the other one?
Boise State.
Boise State, yeah. Boise State's right there in early October. So if they could go 3-2 in those games, I think, you'd have a solid case even over – because you don't know what these Group of 5 schools are going to do. You don't know that they'll be an undefeated school. I think a 2-loss BYU team would have an interesting case at a New Year's Day 6 bowl considering but they'd need Boise State and South – they'd need that Boise State game, first of all, to have that case. And then South Florida is kind of the team we're all watching because of, having a Heisman dark horse, having Charlie Strong, having a good setup in the American Conference.
Bill Bender of the Sporting News, college football insider with us on BYU Sports Nation. The Cougars play 13 regular season games because they will make the trip to Hawaii and get a 13th game with that NCAA rule in play. What do you think BYU's record will be in the regular season with those 13 games?
now you're making me say they're going to win 10 or 11. I think 10 would be a remarkable season, given that they're playing that September again, that tough September schedule with LSU, Utah, Wisconsin. If they go 10-3, I think 9-4 is realistic. 10-3 would be something to shoot for, and if you get to 11-2, that means you did your job in those 5 big games, as you guys have probably been talking about a lot. The Furious 5 I actually like. So, that's my very political answer, but I would probably say between 9 and 10, and I could see 10 wins happening if it breaks the right way.
Yeah, we feel the same way. 9-4 is probably what's going to happen unless there's something crazy either way, right? And with that in mind, BYU football and Independence, they won 10 games in 2011, but it's been kind of 8 or 9 the last several years. What does BYU need to do to kind of validate independence, or have they already?
I think they validated being independent. I think they need to continue to strive to increase their profile in case we have that other round of expansion. I know it was disheartening in some ways not to get added to the Big 12, obviously, when they had the pageant last year. But expansion you can never say never with it being done. And I think, the Big 12 status in general is worth watching this year with adding a conference championship game and those kind of things. So for me, if I'm BYU, I just keep doing what you're doing in terms of scheduling. I mean, that's the September schedule. It's always the first thing that catches my eyes when you look at, schools that play that really tough September. So BYU certainly earning it from that standpoint, and to continue building your profile in case there's another round of expansion or conference changes where BYU can elevate itself into one of those conferences if that's what they want.
Becoming nationally ranked or in a top 25 is always an important thing for BYU football because they're independent and don't have a conference. So where would you rank BYU right now going into the 2017 season between 1 and 130 FBS teams?
I mean, in the 30s somewhere. I think, they won't be in the top 25 in preseason polls across most polls right now. But, I mean, with Tanner Mangum coming back with, some of the strengths they have in that schedule, they'll have an opportunity. They're a lot like, in terms of a team, when you have that September schedule, I remember talking to you guys a few years ago about the one they played where it was, what was it, Nebraska, UCLA, Michigan? It was ridiculous. If they were to somehow get through those 3 games 2-1 and get through, September, the bye week at 3-1, they'd be in really good shape.
BYU football right now is trying to continue to carve out its place in college football, as you mentioned. You feel like they've validated independence. But I want to know the first thing you think of when you hear BYU football.
Well, I think stuck would be the first word that comes to mind, because you're stuck in terms of being independent, and you guys have made it no secret that they wanted to be in a conference at various times. They've done everything they need to do, and they're kind of that in between. They're a lot like, in some ways, Notre Dame, where Notre Dame's a little bit different because they're fiercely independent. But, I mean, just stuck in that thing where there's no margin for error because you can't lose too many games when you're outside of a conference. And when you schedule a schedule like this, in some ways it works for you. But I think we've talked about this as well, where if you lose a couple games, you can fly off that national radar in a hurry.
Bill Bender of the Sporting News on BYU Sports Nation. What do you think is the strongest part of the 2017 BYU football team, and why fans should have hope as an independent going into this upcoming season?
Well, I always look at defense first after the quarterback. So, I mean, I guess that's a 2-part answer, because I like Tanner Mangum. I think, the experience there. He's a guy that obviously has had an interesting career arc at BYU, but, I mean, if you trust what he can do, that's a good start as a pocket passer. And then you got your linebackers back. And it's funny because I just never liked defense when I was in high school. I didn't like tackling people. I didn't like getting near people. And now when I get older, it's the first thing I look at. And I think BYU's back 7, the experience of linebacker is going to count. When you got your leading tacklers back, that's always a good thing.
Bill, great stuff. We appreciate the time. Good luck to your Cleveland Cavaliers, man.
We need a little more than luck at this point, but I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
You got it. Bill Bender on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.